Hello, everybody. I am one of your hosts, Scott, coming to you from Toronto.
Hello, and I'm Andy, coming to you from the United Kingdom, but shortly on my way to Poland.
Hey, nice. I like
Apparently, it's still summer there, which is nice.
Summer is in full form here. It's great to have a
Oh,
little
yeah, really?
extra. Yeah. I mean,
Oh.
right now it can't decide if it's trying to be sunny or cloudy,
No,
but
of course, yeah.
yeah.
That transition phase in the seasons can sometimes
Right.
be a little bit challenging.
Well, thank you, everybody. I know it sounds like sometimes it's just the weekly weather report from around the globe, but you are actually listening to Tea and Timbits, a podcast about global perspectives on business development to help you prosper. This is September. We are holding on to summer, and we are talking about what to do. Well, we're talking about the business new year, and last week we talked about getting ready for fourth quarter. We're going to sort of parlay that into a little bit more of a conversation about making the customer experience a priority, whether that's a fourth quarter kind of focus or just in general. I would imagine that the themes will apply. So rather than continue to ramble and intrude upon our entire episode, Andy, please take the mic. Tell us a
It's
story.
my turn to ramble now. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Scott. No, so I wanted to share a quick story. It was one of the brief opportunities I had during the summer now to do some normal proper business, because most of my summer has been taken up by the music industry stuff that I do. So festivals and recordings and
There's
studios.
proper business there, buddy.
Well, there is, and it's great fun, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. But
Just because you have fun doesn't mean it's not business.
No, that's true.
There's our therapy moment. Keep going.
I think I've just spent 20 years doing the corporate stuff, so it kind of feels a little bit cheating that I'm now having far too much fun doing stuff that I shouldn't have been. But anyway, I was doing some stuff with a shipping company, because that's an industry that I'm quite familiar with, and I often get asked to go and jump in or join certain discussions or negotiations or conversations. And anyway, I was asked to join a pitch, and it was for a company that focus on reducing emissions and the compliance with the new shipping emission standards and things like that. So not an overly exciting topic, but something I'm experienced in and enjoy talking about. But this company had asked me to sit in on a pitch, and so they gave me a demonstration. And one thing that they had very much neglected to do was sort of tailoring the pitch at all. They were just giving this standard thing, and it was the typical one of, we are this company, we've been around for these many years, we've got offices in these locations. It's like, come on. It's they had no sort of questions lined up or anything like that, and they weren't linking to the to the challenges that the customer was trying to overcome. They weren't linking them to their proposed solutions. They were not using any relevant metrics or anything to showcase it. They had nothing to demonstrate quick wins, and everything was very generic. And yet they had so much great stuff to talk about. There was so much, everything was tailored perfectly. They could have, solution, but the pitch was just so generic, and it was just, this is all we ever use, and this is what we do. And I thought, but this is a really big and important opportunity, and it was. And so we spent a lot of time sort of tailoring the pitch to make sure that it did ask the right questions, and avoided being irreverent, and and really focused on using relevant metrics that really clearly showcased what they were doing, why they were doing it, and how they were going to help the customer achieve their goals. So this story is simply just to remind people that tailor your pitch. Always. No one cares about your offices. No one cares about how long you've been in business. It doesn't matter. They don't care if your CEO's in China or in London. Doesn't matter. What matters is, are you the right company to solve their problems and help them achieve their goals? And if you're focused on those other things, it seems that you're more focused on yourself than you are on the customer.
Right.
And that's when you can lose otherwise very potentially perfect partnerships. So keep that in mind.
Or they just don't get the right chance to shine.
And it's a real shame, because big companies with great solutions and great potential can really lose a lot of the time just because of the pitches are
Yeah.
being badly conducted.
You know, and just to drag this story out a little bit further, I was working last week on a proposal response to an RFP.
Hmm.
And everybody that says those words, they say them with the same loathing and annoyance when you have to follow a format that somebody's issued
Yeah.
and whatnot. And I just, because it's just so painful. One, there was no room for self-expression. Um, I mean, I know you're supposed to find your own way to insert that and deviate from, so but you spend so much time and energy following the template so that you don't get disqualified and getting, the specific answers that they've asked into the thing. I mean, from a procurement perspective, somebody thinks this is a good idea. Yeah, that's what
Mm,
I've engineered for your response to fit that mold. I'm
yeah.
like, then you're not actually evaluating things properly,
No.
and so you miss the procurement process imposed by the customer in that point has
Mhm.
actually imposed the same constraints that your client fell into themselves. It was just, here's our corporate history, here's this thing, and because it sounds like I'm filling out the response to an RFP. In the case of this one that I was working on, the corporate history section, I'm like, why do you care?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what you're doing? Actually, you're trying to evaluate um, resilience and
Mhm.
robustness and fortitude. And am I going to go out of business? And am I going to stick around? And am I going to have the substance to fulfill? So
Yeah.
ask that question. We
Yeah.
would like to know if you are going to still be around in 3 years. Please address that question, however
Yeah.
you see fit.
Exactly. Exactly.
Instead, they wanted 3 years of financial history, which I'm not going to give them anyway. Okay, now I'm ranting.
Mhm. No, but
Um,
it's absolutely fair. Absolutely
yeah.
fair. Yeah.
And I was going to go somewhere else with that, but I'll have to wait till the thought comes back to me later, or make it another podcast episode. Um,
We can make it a whole series, I'm sure.
well, we are going to segue into our actual topic for today, which is making customer experience a priority as we talk about entering into the business new year. And if you need a definition of what that is, listen to last week's episode. So, Andy, making the customer experience a priority, I think, was baked into the story you just told. But
Well, I
care
say
to
story, yeah.
care to elaborate a little bit further on what we should be thinking about, how we should be doing that, what we should keep in mind, how we can put it into practice?
Well, I could do all of those things, but I think initially it's more about thinking at the high level, because as indicated by our stories, and it doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on, but too many organizations see customer experience as a kind of a soft initiative
Mm-hmm.
rather than something that is actually a very, very important commercial driver, because your your renewal rates, the ability to upsell to existing customers, the possibility to get a referral, and of course your brand reputation, all of those things are determined by your customers' experience in dealing with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I believe in Q4, it's very important to take the steps to sort of reflect on that. What are you doing to improve or maintain or develop the experience that the customer has in doing business with you?
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the main things that's most important for companies, of course, is maintaining existing customers and existing customer
Yeah.
relationships and getting those renewals. So, have a think, who are your big customers and what are you doing to
Right.
help them? How are you supporting them? And it's not just about having a key accounts team who take them out to play golf every few weeks. I'm
Right.
talking about business relationships, not
Yeah.
personal relationships. I'm talking about what are you doing from a business perspective to ensure that you are delivering value all the time and that you are using it as a differentiator from your competition.
So I'm going to jump in here because I used to think about this a little bit differently than the way I
Mm.
do now. And I used to think about it as like, oh my God, that's a lot of pressure. Every time I show up on a call, I gotta find a new way to add value. And still I have to take them golfing or out for dinner or whatnot. And it was like overwhelming. And then you're like lost, right? So I've come to appreciate in more recent years sort of the nuance of what this means. And the one thing that I remind the team about, probably too much here, they're probably sick of hearing me say it, is show up with consistency.
Yes.
And
thank you.
and that has value. And you may not see the value every time you go through your routine, but the routine is refreshing. So we have, we have, different check-ins with our clients and different kinds of projects that sort of some last perpetually, some are shorter duration. Just because you made a schedule at the beginning of the project does not mean it stays, at that link. You bring it up and say, by the way, nothing's changed. Here it is again. Here are all the dates again. Just to remind you, or it gives you the chance to shift things when they do change. Same with budget. You don't just manage a budget by sending invoices. You proactively bring it up and say, I know you haven't raised a concern or asked about this, but this is just part of what we do, so that you see that we're on top of this. And it was really awkward when I forced this. And they're like, yeah, but nobody listens, nobody cares. I'm like, I don't care. It's your job. You have to do it. And I don't care if you spend 5 minutes on it. Like, you have to bring it up. You have to show them. You have to communicate it. You have to be proactive about it. And then the feedback starts coming in about 6 months, 12 months later. You guys are just so buttoned down. I wish my team was that organized. You guys keep me accountable. You guys are the ones that are really, organized and on top of it. And I tell you, that is bringing value. This isn't about showing up with some new insight. And then from time to time, once a year, we'll have a customer event. We'll share some thought leadership. We'll, they read something in our newsletter that, oh, hey, I saw this go by. Can you tell me more about it? And then it sort of, so I'm not saying the consistency piece is the one answer to this, but I felt pressured for the longest time to do this in a way that was both genuine, meaningful, impactful, and it was like, it just sort of dawned on me a while ago that, what, the real answer is, do some of those things, but it's the consistency that really matters.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, that is a competitive advantage.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah, that's a competitive advantage. And I think the way that you build that consistency, of course, is that you map out those sort of 3 to 5 touch points with the customers that really provides some sort of special value that they wouldn't necessarily get anywhere else. Those key points where, is it onboarding? Is it, those renewal conversations? Is it how you handle disputes? Anything like that, where you've got a special process in place that adds that value as part of the normal business interaction, is again something that's a key differentiator. And I think getting that feedback from the customers, as you mentioned, is very important. But nobody likes to really fill out surveys, and they're not really that valuable, right? So, customers really want you to listen, and so they want to have that opportunity to share their perspectives with you, share their experiences with you in a safe sort of environment. And so, you build those structured forums like you have the events where you invite them to, and then of course everyone relaxes and they start sharing information with you, and that's great. You've got the executive check-ins, where some of the leaders of the business reach out to the other leaders of the business, and you have that sort of senior level discussion. But also you can start something which I like to do with the larger organization, something called a client advisory board, where you actually get a number of different clients from big companies together in a room, and then you have this where they all sort of share at a peer level their experience, their things that they're liking from their suppliers, not just you, but from others as well. And it's a great way of learning and a great way of adding value, and everyone learns from each other, and that can be incredibly good. And again,
you don't have to be
where you're adding experience
in those advisory board situations. I love that, by the way. I'm going to maybe try and steal that. Is you don't facilitate them. You facilitate the meeting.
Yeah.
But you don't even need to be in the room. You're
Oh no,
just like,
exactly,
it's an
exactly.
adjunct to a customer event, and hey, we're gonna have some breakouts. We've put you all into, one of three different rooms. Nobody from my company is going to be there, but here's your talking points. Elect a room leader, and we'll see you in 20 minutes, and
Completely
then
that.
just
Yeah.
sort of see what pops out of that.
Mm.
I was going to pick up on your comment about, making sure that you can do your best to realize renewals, and
Yeah.
that's obviously a,
Yeah.
a part of this. I'd heard it, this is another one of those, like, it just took a while in my career to sort of listen and hear things properly.
Mm.
Is in, especially in the B2B world, in the service-based world, yes, we have some clients that are kind of on renewal, like they work with us on a regular basis, and we just essentially it's reestablishing budgets. Okay, you've
Mm.
done your budget year for different clients at different times of year. There's a big, chunk of them that do it with the calendar year and whatnot, and so we just reconfirm budgets. But a lot of times we're not looking for a renewal. We're just looking for a commitment to advance more initiatives. So it's renewing more work with us, but we're not offering a subscription of anything, right? It's so I think sometimes when people hear you want to get that renewal, no, like,
Mm.
you know, at least for me, that would just kind of go in one ear and out the other. So I'm putting pause here to just reframe it for what I needed to do for myself to get the same purpose out of the statement. Is you're always looking for how can I sort of advance the customer's ongoing objectives, and then making sure that I'm seen as the trusted supplier, partner to help with that, or recognize that the next quarter, fiscal, half year is a business initiative that they're not going to need us for, so we'll stand ready for when that one's done, and then it comes back around.
Mm. And that's why it's really important as well that it's not just something that's owned by sales and
Yeah,
support or customer service. The whole organization, finance, marketing, operations, everybody who has a frontline role or in some way interacting with the customer or someone at the customer's business has a responsibility to contribute to whether customer feels friction or not, and of course no customer experience is going to exceed an employee's experience. So it's very important that you invest in your employees' training as well, so that they know how to do these things. They feel empowered. They have the authority to interact with the customers in a certain way, and that will actually generate them feeling excited and proud to be doing their job and contributing to that. They'll understand their contribution and they will make that extra effort, which the customer will then experience and go, wow, it's always such a pleasure when I call them. Even when I talk to the finance department, they're always very helpful. And that's also a key. I mean, nobody really likes talking about money or charging things like that, but the customers don't remember the invoice. They remember the interaction around it. So make the invoices,
or if they do
interesting,
remember the
easy,
invoice, it's
and make
because
that
the
process
interaction had no value.
yeah.
I love it. Great chat. I think there was a lot to take away from that. Look for the value and the consistency, making like, I love that where you just sort of went with that. You can have all the things, you can have the brand and the values defined, and you can have the templates and you can have the process. But if your people aren't delivering it the way it's meant to be delivered, and you don't have that kind of training in place and coaching, it is as if you don't have it at all. So
Yeah.
thank you, Andy. Thank you, everybody. This has been another episode of Tea and Timbits. And if you would like to get in touch, we do encourage you to go to teaandtimbits.com. And all of our archives are there. Find us on LinkedIn, say hello, hit like. We'd really appreciate it. Looking forward to the next chat, Andy. Thanks again.
Thank you, Scott.